Well, good afternoon, all participants and panelists. I'm Dr. Sudhir Andrews, and I'm the chairman of the advisory board of Oro University, School of Hospitality. I have today, firstly, let me wish you on behalf of Oro and all the panelists that you and your families are safe and well. And may you continue to be that. I have with me today a very brilliant panel, and we are going to learn a lot from them. Let me quickly introduce each one of them. First is Mr. Suresh Mathur. He's the Chief Operating Officer for Oro Hotels, India, a subsidiary of Oro Hotels USA, which has a chain of 40 hotels, and Oro University, Surat. He oversees the Marriott at Courtyard, the Marriott and the Courtyard Courtyard by Marriott in Surat. He serves on the governing body, Board of Management, Academic Council, on the Board of Studies of Oro School of Hospitality. He has vast experience with the Oberois, where he started the ITC Welcome Group, and he worked in the US with Oro Hotels, Berkshire Hotels, and the Pinnacle Hospitality. There is much more for him, but since I've got a very short time, all these participants have a whole page of achievements. Then we come to Mr. Rakesh Mathur. He started with the Oberois, and he grew up to be the CEO of Bass Intercontinental Hotels Group for South and West Asia. He is also the ex-president of ITC Welcome Group Hotels. He's a director and principal advisor to the Lords Hotels and Resorts, as well as Woodbridge Guest Homes. He's also on the advisory board of Oro University School of Hospitality. Then we have Mr. Suresh Kumar, who till recently was the managing director of Fortune Hotels. He's very well known as a very hard and tough operations man, and has got a lot of accolades for that. And he is a tech-savvy man, and I was quite amazed when I first met him that he operated his huge chain through his mobile. So that's great. He's the new tech kind of leader. Then we have Vimal Shukla here. He's the associate professor in the School of Hospitality of Oro, and he's going to receive your questions as we are going on. And he will read those questions out to us so that we can proceed in the Q&A period. I've also received a lot of questions well in advance, which I shall present when the time comes. So let us, with further ado, let us come. May I request Mr. Rakesh Mathur to start. And I want to ask you, Rakesh, can you please tell us in a brief while, what is the impact of COVID-19 on the hotel industry?
Okay, can I begin?
Yes, please. Over to you.
Okay, I think I will not go into very many great details. There's a lot of information circulating all over the country about its impact on the economy, etc. I don't want to get into too many statistical data also, but in general, I would like to brief everyone as to how I see the economy reacting to what is now, especially with reference to the hospitality industry. Now, let me start by saying that this is not the first crisis in the hospitality industry. There have been several before. And let me remind you of the bomb blasts of Bombay in the year 1994, which had a very, very severe impact on the hospitality industry. Then the Surat plague itself, that impacted the travel and tourism business throughout the country. And more recently, we had 9/11. When I say recently, I mean 9/11, almost 20 years ago now. And all these have had a great impact. But I agree that there has been nothing on such a global scale as it has now. Anything that happens in the world or in India in terms of a crisis, the first impact is always felt by the travel and tourism and hospitality industry. And there are two sort of impacts. One is the economic impact, and then of course is the social impact. Let's look at the economic impact, what they are going to be. I think it's very clear that closure of hotels is straight away loss of business to the investor, loss of jobs, and a complete setback to whatever level we were operating at in the last 1 year or so. So we've gone back to base zero. And what is going to happen economically, from the economic point of view, what is going to happen when hotels reopen? Don't expect that from day one business will start floating in. First and foremost, I believe that only essential business travel will start. When I say essential means there people have to travel for whatever physical reasons. Let us say somebody is monitoring a construction site of a petrochemical plant. He has to be at the site. He or she will have to travel. The second impact is that smaller meetings and seminars which used to take place in off-site locations, we might as well say bye-bye to them for the time being. Partly because of cost-cutting and economic reasons, and partly because now they have been placed by alternatives, cheaper alternatives, exactly what we are doing right now. People can talk on Zoom, people can talk online. So where is the need to actually physically meet? Thirdly, we might as well say goodbye to large conferences and meetings for the time being, partly because of cost cutting and partly because of the need to maintain social distancing. So the MICE business is definitely impacted. Now let's come down to foreign travel. Foreign essential travel will take place, which is for business reasons or for government reasons. And when you talk about that, there was a lot of foreign travelers who used to take side trips. Like for example, if a foreigner came to Delhi, he would take a side trip to Delhi, to Agra and Jaipur. And let me tell you, that formed a substantial chunk of tourism. That is not going to happen anymore. People will come, they'll do their jobs and they'll go back. And this is going to continue for a long time to come. There are not going to be side trips. People will do only what is essential. Next, long haul travel is completely off for the time being. Number one, people may not want to travel long distances far away from their homes. And therefore, I don't foresee the Western Hemisphere contributing much to our tourism economy at this stage. And that was the bulk of our key source markets when we say Germany, USA, UK, Europe, Italy, etc. I don't see long haul happening for some time. Also, I think there is going to be a psychological barrier to travel towards the East. Number one, we are seen not as a completely developed country, and there are issues about health, bacteriological issues and so on. And this virus is supposed to have originated in the East. So there is the mental block that is going to take place about traveling to the East. And then, of course, we all know that the work from home culture has set in. So all these are going to have a direct business impact, economic impact on the hospitality industry till confidence in travel is restored. And when I say confidence in travel, I mean only when a curative or a preventive cure is found to the coronavirus. You must go through the report which has been published by the government, the Niti Aayog department, which clearly says that airlines and hotels are going to experience a 60 to 80% fall, with hotels and hospitality being at the 80% level. So we might as well say that we have lost 80% of our business. And how long it will take to recover? If you look at the entire report, it also tells us that the least affected will be IT, telecom, pharma, and agriculture and chemicals. And at the middle level of the spectrum is going to be power and retail. But at the bottom end are services, the service industry, and of course luxury goods like motor cars and so on. So we are the worst affected part of the economy. Let's come down to the social impact. What is the social impact? Now, you can imagine people are returning, migrant labor is going back to their homes, and they are not going to come back, family pressures and so on. So there is a level of unemployment that has taken place, and that has a social impact. There is shortage of manpower. There is going to be shortage of manpower. There is going to be shortage of skills in cities. And apart from that, new skills have to be acquired. And that will also cause a social turmoil, because when new skills have to be acquired, there's a certain amount of training and expenditure involved in all that. And obviously a consequent fall in wages, because lots of companies are unable to pay 100% wages during this period of lockdown. So all this will have definitely a certain social impact. So what are the upheavals taking place in the hospitality industry? There is a slump in revenues, 80% slump in revenues. So can you imagine what is going to be the impact on costs when we operate at a certain fixed cost? I think there is going to be a huge pressure on costs, and companies that don't have liquidity, that don't have working capital available to them, I see a lot of sales of assets taking place. You know, from people who do not have the liquidity required, there could be a lot of sale of assets or sale of shares. So there will be a certain turmoil in the industry. There's going to be a lot of pressure on brands to deliver. And new standards have to be set in, new standards of service, new standards of product. I think Mr. Suresh Kumar will deal with that in his presentation. But a whole set of new standards are already being devised for the hospitality industry. Another impact, there is something known as the National Green Tribunal and the Pollution Control Board. They are both empowered by the government with judiciary powers, and the main reason why they were constituted in the first place was to establish, norms of hygiene, sanitation, and pollution control throughout in all industry, not only in hotels. I think they will be specially empowered to take more stringent measures in order to control things like hygiene, sanitation, etc. And that will create a major problem for hospitality investors who did not pay the right attention towards investing in these areas, back of the house areas especially, which I hope you all understand, being potential, being trainees in the hotel industry. So people who did not take care of these areas are going to face a lot of pressure. New menus will have to come into place because of social distancing, new ways of sitting, etc. So all these things require a lot of investment. Where is this money going to come from? Changing your service design, changing your entire... so this money has to come from somewhere. And when we look at no revenues, obviously the money is not being generated from the business. And therefore, we are now... Another impact is the larger impact on the government to make funds available for these purposes. Now, the industry has made a big demand to through our various associations. We have demanded from the government, but some kind of financial support. I'll give you 3 or 4 key things that we have asked for. One is deferment of loans, deferment of repayment of loans. The second is removal of interest and interest-free period for a certain period of time. They've asked for 5 years. Even if you get 2 years, I think it's a good beginning. They've asked for a payment, a staff salary subsidy, some kind of funds being allocated to businesses to subsidize the wages and the salaries and wages of staff. Now, here there is a big difficulty because let's not forget that in India, the travel and tourism industry is primarily, the problems are primarily in the unorganized sector, not in the organized sector. How are we going to make a list of the unorganized sector? And when I say unorganized, I mean hotels, restaurants, dhabas, which are not registered, which
Rakesh,
we don't know, but yet they...
Rakesh, can I request you to continue with this at a little later stage? I'm just doing some time management here. Thank you very much, but we will come back to you with a lot of questions.
All right. Okay.
My next speaker is Mr. Suresh Kumar. Now, Suresh, what I would request you is to tell us what do you see a general manager of a hotel facing right away and in the future? How has it impacted him, and what are his concerns, and what are his issues? Can you please enlighten us about this?
Yeah, thank you so much for getting me on this. I think it's a great opportunity to share. I think Rakesh has already shared a larger macro structure and as to what is going to come in. But on a lighter note, a general manager today must be thinking, I'm in control of a situation, but situation is out of control. So I think that is the basic premise. So when I look at red zones, green zones and all, so it reminded me that life is like a watermelon now. It's green from outside, you cut it and it's red. You don't know. The third theme which is going to change is that earlier this buzzword, your buzz sentences used to be a change. The only permanent thing in life is a change. I think in the existing circumstances, what I can say is that only thing which is certain is the uncertainty. So I think when I look at these old hotspots, used to be the places that you must be seen. Now these are hotspots, you must remain away. So I think there's a definition changing. But I think looking from the point of view of a general manager today, I think it's the largest democracy, and I keep saying it. This business is run by people, for people, and through people. And if people are suspect today, I think what is happening is social distancing. While Rakesh mentioned that we have come back, we have seen many this thing, but this pandemic takes away the largest resource of your life, which is a man, because you're now suspicious of a man. So the only thing that is happening today is that all other resources can't be utilized with the same strength because people have to be limited now. So I think the first thing is save yourself and save others. I think this will bring in tremendous amount of...
You heard what he said. Can you just tell us what he said?
So,
Thank you, Rakesh. Suresh. That's very nice. Have you finished, or are you?
No, I think I'm starting, but there was somebody's asking something, so I thought maybe.
Okay. No. Please continue.
So I think what will happen is that I think the genesis of the problem is actually, and the solution is social distancing. So the general manager will have to actually start working of creating a service design which will take into account.
He's there. I can see Christian.
So now when I'm saying there is no need to panic because everything has a solution. The first thing is safety for self and safety for the rest. I think that's the first premise. Is prepare but don't panic, because it's not a situation that you need to panic, because whatever asset you have, whatever products you have and service designs, I think you need to just relook at it. So if a general manager, rather than thinking of what the apprehensions are and what the anxiety is, needs to handle first lives and then lifestyle, then the livelihoods. So I think to that premise, he has to say that he has to look at basics. Earlier, skill and knowledge used to be the power. I think now attitude and habits will become the basic powers. Like Rakesh mentioned, hygiene and sanitation will actually take precedence over everything else in life. Whether it's your back of the house, whether you're front of the house. Social distancing will restructure your check-in procedures, will restructure your vehicles, will restructure your own service standards of saying that how much distance will you maintain and do it. There's a lot of work which is happening with large companies, and you can see that everybody is now putting in an effort, because I think after all, at the end of the day, the companies have to run, and the purpose of the business is to produce profits. Now, will it rationalize manpower? Many things that are happening is that what were being delayed today, I think with this pandemic, I think suddenly you will find solutions of saying, will we run our businesses with 0.3 or 0.4 of staff ratios? Will the service design be that we will service a room every day, or will we service it once every 2 days? Will we also have, instead of having a Aadhaar card, you also may have a now COVID certificate and say there is no COVID. So I think there will be a lot of legality involved.
Point.
A general manager has to actually look at very quickly of saying, how do I manage room service, or do I ever give room service or not? Should we ever maybe we discontinue room service? So I think there are large areas. I have a list, but since the time constraint is there, I don't want to do it. But at the same time, I think right now every general manager has to look in within the areas of his control, which is people related, which is hygiene related, which is actually building confidence. And I think this is the time when the world will bond together. This is the first time you'll start respecting self and respecting others. So I think people will start respecting people, their privacy, and also make sure that there is a confidence that is built around when you actually start your business. So with these few lines, because I think time is only 10 minutes or 5 minutes, there is huge lists that are being now pulled out. I can send it to the university, but at the same time, I think don't panic, take charge, and I think this situation will also pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you very much. That was very incisive, and that means we'll start respecting people now. That's a wonderful thought that you brought in. Now I shall request Mr. Suresh Mathur to tell us. Now he's heard all the problems we are having, and from his vast reservoir of knowledge, I would request him to tell us what are the solutions, Suresh, that are available to us in the hospitality industry. And while you talk about that, I have one request. If you can also cover how will the industry view the students, who are passing out of the IHMs and passing out of Oro University or anywhere, any hotel school. How will they view them and what is their future?
Okay. Thank you, Sudhir.
Yeah.
I also thank Rakesh and Suresh for good insights. Let me take this a little forward. What I'll do is, in the next 15 minutes or so allotted, I will introduce you to Oro University, then look at current measures that our hotels and the industry at large is involved in. These measures pertain to community, our stakeholders, which is the community, associates, customers, the government, which has already been touched upon, so perhaps skip that when I get there. And then more importantly, I would like to highlight what is the main purpose or main objective of operations and hotels today is creating liquidity, saving money. During this process, I'll also touch on the role of the brands, our vendors, and owners, and of course, our bankers. Having said that, if you had logged on earlier, you would have seen a very lovely video of student life at Oro. So let's introduce Oro. Inspired by the vision and teachings of Shri Aurobindo and the Divine Mother, Oro University is founded by the Rama family under the leadership of our President, Founder, Shri H.P. Rama. As part of the Oro philosophy, we believe education must not be limited purely to academic learning. So at Oro, we focus on the holistic development of students that includes physical education for agility, strength, flexibility, mental education for receptivity, courage, and overall progress, vital education, which is emotional, for perseverance, humility, and equanimity, or the new cool as we call it, and then of course, spiritual education for peace, goodness, and generosity. Today, we have over 1,250 students at Oro in the business of, in the schools of business, hospitality, law, IT, design, mass comm, liberal arts, sciences, offering undergrad, grad, and master's programs, including Sri Aurobindo studies under the auspices of the Sri Aurobindo Integral Center at the university. Moving forward, specifically for students to benefit for students from the School of Hospitality, we use a lot of case studies, simulations, business labs, live projects, innovation, incubation, field trips, industry visits, and interactions as part of our 20, 30, 50 learning principle. Students benefit from our international exposure programs like foreign internship, foreign faculty, international collaborations, and faculty and student exchange programs. Moving quickly forward, our hospitality students have an opportunity for a 1 year's international paid internship with our company's hotels in the US and also at other hotels in New Zealand, France, and Malaysia. On campus, we have the 5-star Koreat Marriott Hotel, which serves as a training and internship hotel for our students. So having introduced Oro, let me go into the main purpose of this webinar, and that is what we are doing at our hotels and the community at large. The first stakeholder I want to talk to you about is community engagement. Community engagement is a must for business success in our environment. So we serve our communities through our ONE program, ONE, which stands for Outreach, Nourish, and Engage. Under this program, we donate to our communities 1% annually of our product, time, and profit. For example, at the Suryat Marriott, they are providing 18,000 to 20,000 meals a month to 250 patients at the civil hospital for CVD, for COVID patients, and for police and volunteers. The Courtyard Marriott Hotel provides 100 to 120 meals daily to police and volunteers. The team at the Surat Marriott offered 120 rooms to a leading business house, which has housed 250 of their associates at our hotel since 23rd of March. The hotel, under these circumstances, has gained an occupancy of 93% for the month of April. So this is what the community brings to you. Moving forward, let's talk about associate engagement. All associates are trained in the Coronavirus 101 awareness program. Social media campaign in place to motivate our associates. They share their moments at home with their families with us. Regular communications to the owners, myself, the general managers, and HR. Virtual online training. One of the major initiatives we have taken is exposure to physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual mentoring through meditation, yoga, health, and well-being sessions by our yoga team at Oro, and physical mentoring by Dr. Veena Veshi, senior faculty at Oro University. One of my pet projects during this time is that we are creating a COVID-19 family recipe books. Our associates are donating family recipes, and we want to print this in the form of a booklet. So we are very excited about this project. I think we've already collected about 35, 40 projects. Next is customer engagement. We engage with our customers through social media posts, informing them of the new sanitation, safety, and hygiene standards. We share TV coverage within our community with our associates. We have a novel program called DIY, Do It Yourself Recipes, where our chefs are sending very easy to do recipes at home for our customers with ingredients which are normally available in a household. We have also created a hashtag Marriott at home. Here, our housekeeping team is putting videos online where they are showing towel skills or towel art, creating Ganeshji, elephants, animals, and other such things which we normally put in guest rooms, and now we are treating this to our customers. Moving on to the government, I'm going to skip the government because Mr. Rakesh Mathur has already mentioned that. So I'm going to jump into create liquidity is the time of the moment. This is something which Suresh Kumar just touched upon. So our objective during this time, or hotels or the company's objective at this time, is to conserve cash, because we know cash is king. Cash will take your business through this critical period. So focus on creating liquidity through evaluation and secure revenue opportunities in your market. I just mentioned to you about the Courtyard, how it was benefited from the community, and we got 120 rooms. There's, first responders, COVID patients, active, in certain markets, there's active crews, cargo, traffic movements, interstate traffic movements, providing goods and services, essential PSUs, companies for rooms like Courtyard, F&B. We have a very novel program, Marriott on Wheels, which delivers food at home in a very hygienic way. And that's been managed by our team at the Surat Marriott. Collection of debt is always welcome. So that's my next point. Though many may not pay because they're also going through the same pains as we are going. But the more important thing now is the reduction of expenses. Hotel closings already mentioned, so I'm not going to go there. I would say renegotiate annual maintenance contracts, negotiate with vendors, rebates, soft terms. Standards and initiatives have been deferred by the brands. Please hold back on all capex planned for the year. Negotiate with your brand, management company for fee discounts. And a major expense, of course, is payroll reduction, touched upon by Rakesh, but salary cuts for managers and senior people in April, May, and June. Most hotels are doing it around the country. Giving sabbatical unpaid leave for associates and managers, delaying merit increases, focus on exhausting leaves, annual and paid, hiring freeze, right sizing for the new normal. On the finance side, there's a lot of finance charges, again touched upon. Engage with your bankers to restructure debt as best as possible, act on refinancing or any special support like capital, bridge loans, etc. EMI moratoriums. So what is the test of survival in this? I have a very intelligent friend of mine who owns a few hotels, and I was speaking to him. I said, give me some advice. What can we do, and how can I educate our students on what should an owner think? He says, Suresh, how much money you are going to be out of pocket in April? Just multiply it by 24. That is the amount you will need to survive for the next 2 years, because we see this pandemic stretching longer than we anticipate. However, at the end of the first quarter of this financial year, we'll tell the men from the boys, that is, who survived and who didn't make it. So my advice is, in such crisis, just pay expenses that will keep your business running. Defer everything else. Going on business recovery, to start with, develop your business plan for recovery, which is your marketing, revenue strategies, operations plan, forecasting of budgets, rewrite SOPs, rejig the org structure. Suresh Kumar mentioned the CEO becomes the area managers are becoming general managers, HODs are becoming executives, and so on. So there's a lot of rejigging going on to come up with an org structure for the new normal. Operational readiness and future planning, already touched upon, prioritize safety of guests and associates. The focus is going to shift from aesthetically clean to clinically clean guest rooms using hospital-grade detergents, equipment, etc. Under Marriott's We Care program, we will hold rooms on checkout for 24 hours before re-renting to the next guest. Physical distancing from the time a guest makes a reservation till he's back in his home. We will constantly be putting them through various forms of physical distancing and communications. Importantly, leverage best practices from reopened hotels, restaurants in China and the US. We see a multi-phase recovery. However, all recovery is subject to one thing. Should there be a second peak? Because a second peak is considered more impactful than the first pandemic. So that is the number one caveat to any form of recovery. However, each market will be different in its recovery. Expect a two-speed evolution of the recovery process. First, to recover will be the domestic market using private transportation. Then international tourism will follow, as it is dependent on shared transportation such as planes and trains. It may take 12 to 18 months to reach the pre-COVID scenarios for travel and transport. In economy and mid-scale hotels brands will lead the recovery as early as end of 2020 or Q1 21. Luxury hotels will take longer to recover. Guests will gravitate to hotels with better sanitation and hygiene protocols. Perhaps the number one driver is going to be sanitation and hygiene protocols at hotels and restaurants. Branded hotels will gain quicker consumer confidence. PSUs, pharma, bankers, and financial consultants, as Mr. Mathur just mentioned, will perhaps lead the way for domestic corporate markets to recover. Price discounting should be avoided, as it takes years to achieve pre-COVID level rates then. However, we will see certain amount of price dumping as hotels attempt to recoup cash lost during the lockdown in the immediate and mid-terms. Definitely, sales and marketing efforts should be prioritized to domestic regional markets with suitable packages and points to generate business. So, quickly going into phase one, immediately following the lifting of lockdown, the domestic market is first to rise. India has a very large domestic business base, so these markets may recover more rapidly. The tier 1 cities are expected to bounce back more quickly. Drive-to markets should be priority in these times. Secondary and tertiary markets may recover more quickly than we anticipate, as consumers may prefer drive markets rather than onto getting on a plane. Focus on domestic demand for the remaining part of this year. In food and beverage, immediately following the lifting of the lockdown, there's going to be a pent-up demand for people to dine out at restaurants. This is because they've been sitting for 2 months indoors, and now they get this first opportunity. They're going to hit whatever restaurants are opening on 17th or 18th, should there be no lockdown number 40. So be ready for that pent-up demand. Dining at home, Marriott on Wheels, staycations, you must have heard the term, that is within destinations within driving distance, 3, 4, 5 hours will benefit. Digital conferencing is going to happen right away. So catering to offices is an opportunity for restaurants. MICE and leisure will be confined to India till the end of 2020 at least, which will create reasonable bounce in occupancy for weddings and events. The big, fat Indian weddings are being replaced by the small, lean Indian weddings. I think Mr. Mathur has mentioned that. Destination weddings confined to India for at least 12 to 18 months. This may be a boom for hotels to pick up some wedding business. Weddings will be scaled down, meetings will be scaled down, digital meetings, opportunity. Double-sided buffets are out as touching the same tongs, lids, etc. over for chauffeurs, at least for the immediate future. Manned stations by chefs will perhaps replace these 100 feet long buffets now. Seating more spread out, more employees may be required to man weddings and events to manage the meal periods. So phase two will be a brand-led staggered return of the domestic leisure, including resort destinations, regional corporate level travel, regional APAC, Asia Pacific region, individual and group travel will follow. And then phase three, which will take us back to the COVID-19 performance period, however, subject to the availability of the vaccine. International travel from US, Europe, and other international countries will see a peak.
Suresh, thank you very much.
However,
time is running out. Yeah.
That's the last one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure.
Bimal, do we have questions from the participants?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have.
Okay. Can you read them out to the panel?
Certainly, sir.
One by one.
Do we have time to take all the questions that are around?
Yeah, we have about 20 minutes.
Certainly, sir. Certainly, sir.
And I would request panelists to be very crisp.
Extend for a few minutes, Vimal?
I think we can, sir. I think we can, surely. If
Let's take the next question.
Let's get to the questions quickly. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the first question is a big one. In a no vaccine invented and post-lockdown scenario, we have come across many SOPs, standard operating procedures, from FSSAI, FOSTAC, MF, FW, FHRI, and many more such organizations. The visit to a hotel or a restaurant is just not for food, but for experience. But as per those SOPs issued, as a guest, I might seem I'm going to get an experience to have my dinner in a hospital, which I think Mr. Suresh Mathur also touched upon, or ICU where even the waiter looks like an astronaut. Under such circumstances, how the demand side would be created, guest customers, and the second thing is the extension of that is guest customers would still be inclined to visit a hotel restaurants under such SOP environment. Please shed your light on this. Thank you.
One question. Anyway, do any of the panelists wish to answer that?
I may attempt to do that.
Yeah.
When I said the only certainty now is the uncertainty. That is one part. Secondly, as Mr. Mathur and Rakesh also said, that the capacity itself is going to be reduced by 50%. So if you ran a 100-room or 100-seater restaurant, you in any case become 50. Now, out of that 50, social distancing in all these areas will happen. Like Mr. Suresh Mathur said, you will actually run for a few years hospitals with hospitality attitude. And that's how the hotels will have to be sanitized. So the question is, when you walk into a sanitized place, you have to decide. That is what I said. It's the first time when man will now decide whether he needs to step in or step out. There is no formula, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just want.
What the scenario?
Rakesh, please. You want to?
I just want to comment that the environment may be changed, but the food and cuisine will not be hospital cuisine. Food will be re-engineered. There'll be a different service design, but the quality of food will not be hospital food. I think that is one was small part of the question that it'll be
Yes.
like eating hospital food. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Rakesh. That's great. Next question. Sorry, Suresh, you want to say something?
Just two things. What's happening in the US, since Georgia in Atlanta in Georgia just reopened their restaurants. You can have a scenario where you enter a restaurant and there'll be two vacant tables at your side. So one will remain vacant throughout your dining experience, and the other table will be used as a sanitation table with all sanitation items there. We are seeing more of that happening now with restaurant capacities. Rakesh's point about food is very, very important, because this is the time when, through pre-ordering and customized menus, will become very popular. If I'm going to have dinner at the Marriott Bistro 101, I'll call in and give my preference. And being a regular customer, I'm going to get a yes from the hotel. And when I land up at 9 o'clock, that gives them enough time to prepare, and it gives me enough time for our party at home and then go. So I think these are the new trends, to answer the gentleman's question, or the lady, I don't know who it was, on the quality of food. It's not.
Thank you. Thank you, Suresh. Thank you very much. Okay, Vimal, next question.
Yes, sir. Okay, the other question is, I think there are two questions which are related to each other, so I will ask both of them.
Yeah, you can ask some other question otherwise.
Yes, how should we adjust demand forecast and pricing strategy? And the other question is, what would be the top 3 shift in consumption patterns in hotels? Asked by, I think, Mr. Amit Mehta, GM.
Anybody would like to answer that? Can you read that question again?
Okay, read that again.
Certainly,
Rakesh,
sir, certainly.
Rakesh, you want to answer that?
Yeah, on the question of pricing strategy and demand, let Mr. Suresh Kumar answer the other one, which is more relevant to hotel operations. But on the issue of pricing and demand,
Yes, sir.
I think I did say that if you read the report, there is a very clear indication of which particular industries are doing well. I think it would do are not so badly affected, and I did list out the industries that for example, the telecom industry, the IT industry, the chemicals industry, they were not as badly hit as the other industries like the transport and vehicles industry, etc. So it may do good to approach and do some research in these areas as to what is exactly happening and what kind of demand for travel is going to be created. So some kind of telemarketing, etc., is going to be very important. On pricing, I think Mr. Suresh Mathur very clearly said that we should not compromise on prices because it will be very, very difficult to recover, and certainly there's going to be a huge pressure on costs. So pricing should be kept at a level which is acceptable, but not compromised to a level where you are discounting heavily.
Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you.
I think
Suresh, Kumar, you were supposed to answer the second part. Are you in a position? What is the second part of the question, Vimal?
Yes, sir.
The second part of the question is?
Just a minute, sir. I'm just getting it. What would be the top 3 shift in consumption pattern in hotels?
See, I think there are one is philosophical answer to this.
Okay.
Philosophical answer right now is the most appropriate, because I am as much at loss as the rest of the world is. So only thing that I can say right now is that the consumption pattern is that entire industry, and the restaurant industry was based on not compulsion, it was on aspiration. The one part is aspirational living. Will it get affected? Secondly is, if you don't change the price, then this pent-up demand of getting out will also be a limited demand of people. Third, you are already depressed capacities and less number of people. So then Mr. Mathur said, Shri Suresh Mathur said that you will have to have first time a pre-ordering of a meal and an experience. But that will also depend on what is the aspirational feeling that you have to get out and eat. Because right now, safety is more important than anything else in the economic terms. Sure enough, businesses will have to survive, then some design will develop. But if you are saying consumption pattern will change, people may not eat heavy food, may eat lighter food. Health and hygiene will become very, very important. So I think this is very difficult to answer, but philosophically saying that I think times will define as to what will happen to this.
Thank
But
you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Suresh. Thank you, Suresh. Vimal, next question.
Certainly, sir.
A short one, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this is I think from a faculty. I would like to know, as a hospitality faculty, what kind of mindset change do we inculcate in our students to face these changing times?
Anyone like to answer that?
Let me try that.
Okay.
Question.
Carry on, Suresh.
Can you repeat the
Suresh
question?
Mathur?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can repeat the question. The question is, I would like to know, as a hospitality faculty, what kind of mindset change do we inculcate in our students to face these changing times?
I think, Sudhir, you had asked me to touch upon this earlier on.
This was a faculty question which I'll answer, Vimal,
Okay.
because
Yes, sir.
yeah, the major shift is that there is no doubt that we are going to go into online training for at least for the next 2 years. Okay, which means that the students and faculty have to now think of how to manage online training and get trained into that. The faculty, this is the major shift. Whether it comes back to normal earlier or not, it is a given that the hospitality education is going to be online only. Okay, so it's worth investing in such kind of equipment. The second thing is that the faculty needs to go from pedagogy to andragogy. Okay, andragogy means it is student learning. Therefore, you're not giving lectures like you do in the class to students on online. That's the worst mistake you could do. But you would give certain projects to students on topics to research and come back with PowerPoint presentations. This is student-led learning, and there are a lot of benefits out of that. And a third thing is that please emphasize on entrepreneurship, because there are a lot of opportunities coming up for students to go and start their own little business. And that is going to play a very big part, in their future. So these three things. Suresh Mathur.
I want to take over from where you are going right now regarding students.
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions come to me earlier on from others webinars, and I thought I'll share that.
Yeah.
Wise and build confidence in our students. I think we have about 228 already registered here, and I think most of them are students. So I want to just reiterate that the industry is very resilient. It will eventually bounce back. It'll find ways to work in the new normal. However, immediate hiring will be restrained. So what is the advice to graduates who are just graduating this year? Do not be in a hurry to jump in the first job that is offered to you. Because a career is a very, very long view. You have to take a very long view at your career. This is the time to rather train under great chefs, work in great restaurants, work in great understudy hotels, internships, go extended internships, create experience. Let me ask everybody present here to do one small exercise. I'll take half a minute, Sudhir.
Okay.
I'd like you to write the figure 62. Just write 62. Everybody. Not you, Sudhir. Not
I'm doing it anyway.
All right. Students, please write 62. Now, under 62, write your age. What do you get? Numbers in the 35 and above, 40 and above. Am I right?
Yes.
That is it. Your career is that long. Your career is not a sprint. It's not a 100-meter sprint. Your career is a marathon. So how do you plan for a marathon? You plan by a career marathon is this is the time to develop transportable skills, communications, creative thinking, creative reasoning, all those skills which you can take from industry to industry, business to business, job to job. The second thing, get into internships to develop meaningful experiences. And above all, this is the time where you're meeting so many people on webinars. Get to the panelists and speak and get their names, addresses, telephone numbers, however you can, and see if you can create relationships with them. These are the people who will help you get jobs, to get trained. This is the time to do it. And the people and the students who do this are the ones who are going to be sitting as panelists 5, 7, 10 years from now and telling the world how they made it. Over to you, Sudhir.
Yeah, thank you. As a matter of fact, I attended a webinar recently where a member of the panel was from NASSCOM, and they represent the industry. And they're saying that all the interviews and all with students will happen, but it will be all online because there are tests, there are interviews, there are ways of interviewing people online. The second thing is they want to see from you a demo. Supposing you want to go into food and beverage service, they want to see from you a demonstrable skill, a skill that will add value to their operations. Now, this is very important for you to think very clearly as to which area you want to go, develop a demonstratable skill, and to demonstrate it online to them. They will see that, and it should add, and they should see that it will add value. It should be important. It's not a me too kind of thing. They want you to come up with something a little extra. Okay, so be creative. Rakesh, please.
Yeah, Mr. Andrews, I'm so happy that you've mentioned develop new skills, because this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. Just 2 or 3 things to answer that. I think this was a very, very good question. One of the things that I would like to advise the students in terms of new skills is how do we create that great USP for India, which attracts tourists to come in again. And I think we have a huge, we have an ocean full of, knowledge of wellness, yoga, Ayurveda, culture, art, craft, and cuisine. And I think, when we talk about ourselves as hoteliers, let us reinvent ourselves and try and promote these skills which are very, very, for which the country is very well known. And this whole knowledge, spiritual knowledge, yoga knowledge, Ayurveda knowledge, I think these are some of the areas where if hoteliers, future hoteliers or tourism people develop these skills. The second thing I would like to say is, I think I would like every tourism service provider, every student to think in terms of environment at every stage of his life, from the time he wakes up, he or she wakes up, to the time they go to sleep. Environment, pollution, environment. I think you must ingrain this in your DNA. And thirdly, of course, as Mr. Suresh Mathur very rightly said, we will have to learn to live with the new normal. What is the new normal will become a daily part of our lives. We have to start living again. That's it.
Thank you, Rakesh. And we have run out of time. A last word from you, Suresh Kumar.
Yeah, I think I'll just take it a little further, I think the good message for students after what has been shared is that for the first time in life, you will actually be tested for your own skills, because it is not going to be on relationship. It's going to be on your skill, your knowledge, as what do you bring to the table. And I think what Rakesh Mathur has said, rural India may be the best way to start your life in a marathon that you have in front, because smaller the units, better the understanding, more multi-skilling, and you will not need people to serve you and become hierarchical. I think hierarchies are going to actually now get demolished. If you have the knowledge, you will survive. If you don't have the knowledge, it's the right time to go under apprenticeships and understand as to what is the best knowledge about your future. I think these are some.
Thank you, Suresh Kumar. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, and thank you. I want to thank all the panelists. They've been brilliant in the suggestions, and I hope that the participants have learned a lot from these geniuses who are here. And I'm sorry if certain questions were not answered, but though we'll request Mr. Vimal Shukla to send it through email to us, so that we can give an answer and he can reply back to you what we think of it. Okay? So don't think we are isolating you. I want to thank the panelists again for your lovely time, and to the participants, be safe and be healthy. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Thank you.